Welcome to the second part of As We Speak's double episode discussion with Dr. Iyaad Hasan, DNP at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, about the very hidden pandemic of vaping that is rampant amongst our teens and youth today. Last week, we discussed how dangerous vaping really was. Watch on to find out how addictive it really is and what we as parents can do about it. When does vaping become addictive and dangerous? Is once a month enough to get addicted? Is once every week enough? Every other day? How does it work?
Yeah, I think ultimately to answer that is sadly every individual is different, right? I mean, how much you stress out and run to go get ice cream depends on how much I stress out to run go get ice cream, right?
Right.
So ultimately, that's what we have to do. We have to understand that the actual behavioral side of it is a tough one. Now, if we look at it from the general tobacco treatment arena of like what tobacco is in general, or let's take away tobacco, the word tobacco, nicotine. Now, what many people will tell you is a lot of the e-cigarettes have low nicotine or no nicotine. Actually, that has been debunked a million times over, and they continue to have still low levels of nicotine. Now, nicotine is a very addictive substance. In fact, if you take one puff of it through a cigarette, now again, we are still looking at, but it's similar to it with the vape. If you take anything into your lungs, nicotine can get into your brain within 8 seconds. We don't even have pain meds that can do it that fast, right? So in your brain, let's just pretend you have dots that are there that are nicotine receptors or nicotine areas. They basically take nicotine and they bind. Sadly, all us humans have those receptors, okay? Now, what they do is when you have it, they release a hormone called dopamine. And that dopamine that releases into your brain is that feel-good hormone, makes you feel good. Now, when you tease them a little bit, right? When you tease them a little bit, they're fine. And I mean a little bit is many people have experimented as a child and they've tried it and they couldn't take it. And they basically said, I'm done with this. Mm-hmm. And the receptors still trigger, but it's not there. What happens as an individual smokes or vapes over time, especially with the nicotine exposure, picture those areas that I mentioned to you start growing. And now there's more and more because now the body is aching more because it tells it, I have so much of this nicotine in this area. What am I supposed to do with it? Let me absorb it. Now, when does this kick in? We don't know. Every individual is there. But usually within a long stretch of time, usually a few weeks, your receptors kick up and an individual becomes addicted to it. And they can feel the basic aspect of what, when I quit it or I stop it, I go through nicotine withdrawal, which is I get headaches, I get a little bit of like irritability, I just don't feel right, okay? Now, if people out there don't understand what it is, if you're a coffee drinker every day, if you don't drink coffee for a day, right, how do you usually feel? They become very irritated. Take that to the millionth power, and that's the power of nicotine.
What are the physical and the mental effects of it on a teen?
Yep. On the physical side, as I said, it becomes a very important thing for your body to maintain because now you've changed your thermostat for that feel-good hormone from here to here. So now I have to keep feeding it daily or regularly, these regular hits of nicotine to get to that thermostat that I need to get to. And if I don't, I don't feel good. I feel irritated. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Now, psychologically, similar to many individuals who do other addictions in themselves, like I brought up coffee, it just doesn't feel like you've completed the actual loop or you've completed the behavior. So many people will tell you I have to scrunch my hands or clench my jaws or something when I don't feel it right. The mental addiction is very hard. Because now what happens with vaping is they begin to associate it with a person, place, or thing. So I associate it with smoking with my friends. I associate it with smoking before I walk into school. I associate it after I go out of school. I associate it within the car. I associate it basically after a meal, before a meal. I associate it before I go to sleep. So there's a person, place, or time that's usually associated. And how we break that addiction in general is we tell them which would be the easiest person, place, or time that you could get rid of. And that's how you start tapering off. In fact, for the parents out there, I usually count when I have an e-smoker or as we call them, an e-smoker or e-cigarette smoker come in, we ask them how many puffs you take. And that's where it goes to the whole psychological side. They psychologically don't know how much they've taken in. When you tell them to start counting how many puffs they take a day, they're very much like taken back. I never knew I take 122 puffs a day. Wow. I never knew I take 50. Wow. And again, remember, the average smoker will take about 200 puffs because it's 20 cigarettes in a pack at 10 puffs a cigarette. So this individual probably doesn't understand what they're doing. The most I've ever heard when we recounted was literally a person who said they took about 400 puffs a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, anybody in our numbers in general sense who takes a lot of puffs increases more chemicals, more stuff into the lung, they're the highest risk for EVALI. So going back to the question to summarize is physically, your body is driving to get the nicotine to feed that thermostat. Psychologically, I'm connecting it to those person, place, or thing that I literally, if I don't do it there, my body and my mind will go nuts because I'm not completing the habit that's existed now.
So we're talking about severe focus issues, attention issues, all sorts of things, especially amongst
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So to finally conclude, what would your advice be to parents of teens who vape?
Parents should open their eyes a little bit more to this type of thing. And again, if their son admits to it, we shouldn't take the harsh reality of like, wait, you're vaping, why, etc. You need to talk to the child or to the teen or to the young adult, because nowadays children are living longer in their homes as it is than we used to in the past. We need to educate them and find out why. And sadly, again, because as similar to cigarettes, it starts with the general peer pressure or noticing your social group that actually that makes individuals go and start vaping. And so in the end, if parents just ask the simple questions, find out why, educate them, and actually bring up the idea of their fears that you may develop lung disease or EVALI as it is. And I don't want that to happen. Sometimes a child will open their mind and actually listen a little bit more. Because in the past, as I used to hear from parents, I used to take my son, and when I found out he smoked, I made him smoke a pack of cigarettes back to back to back until he got sick of it. Or I would punish him or this. I think we've learned a lot with behavioral change that you just need to take a step back, find out from their perspective why it is and what keeps them connected, and try to disconnect it. And that's literally what we try to do at our tobacco treatment center at Cleveland Clinic. Is we really get into, to treat you medically is simple, but to treat you psychologically, that's a harder topic. And parents probably have more stress on themselves when they understand that their child may be vaping. My message for every teen is vaping is becoming a new cultural norm, and it's becoming normalized and socialized in our teen generation that we have today. It is something that you need to become aware of. And please do not assume teens alone. There are 7, 8, 9-year-old children that are actually doing it. Okay? It is
in the UAE?
I would say yes, because sadly here in the UAE, smoking in general is a different concept. Okay? It's a cultural thing, especially with the midwaf that we talk about. It's a culturally accepted type of thing in many individuals' minds that it's a UAE original and that smoking is not as bad as it seems. And now putting in a product that sounds cleaner and healthier. Remember the marketing, cleaner and healthier. And that's what's hard. So for parents, please open your mind a little bit more. Do not make it a negative thing. We have learned from research that anytime that parents make it a negative aspect and try to fight against the actual social norm that a teen is going through, they rebel and actually become more absorbed. And that's what the tobacco industry is doing. They're fighting against this like little curtain, and they're letting them go in front of them and pushing their products out. So just talk to your kids, open up, don't fight, but almost to the extent of listen to them and find out what that inner circle is and where is it going. And I know that you can overcome it. If you feel that your child is sick, especially if you feel that they started vaping, please immediately see a doctor or some type of clinician or practitioner to get them evaluated. And there are multiple centers in the UAE that are tobacco treatment centers similar to what we have at the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi area. It doesn't just have to be ours. There are multiple centers. If you feel there's a true addiction and the child is open to it, and I apologize, I'm saying child, if the teen or the young adult's open to it, please consider taking them to a center. Because sometimes a little bit of adjustment with medications plus counseling is the best choice that can be for the person to stop.
Dr. Iyaad, thank you so much for being with us and giving us all this incredibly important and relevant information.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And a quick shout out, who got me connected to this is Dr. Noor Langa. She's amazing physician out in Dubai. I really want to thank her because she put me on a great channel that I think we're going to touch viewers out there on a very important topic, not just because it's important to me. I think it should be important to the world.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I completely agree. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Iyaad Hasan is at the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. If you have any more questions, thank you for watching and see you next week. Bye.